Imagine if every scammer, every cyber attacker, wasn't just, relying on luck or simple tricks, but had access to a supercharged, constantly learning brain. What could they actually do?
Well, that's not really hypothetical anymore, is it? That's pretty much the reality cybersecurity pros are facing right now.
Exactly. Welcome to a deep dive into the increasingly sophisticated and, frankly, pretty terrifying world of cybercrime powered by artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we've dug into a whole stack of sources for this. One, research reports, analyses of some pretty major recent cyber incidents, and, discussions around the ethical and regulatory puzzles AI throws up.
So our mission here is simple. We're going to unpack how AI is just completely transforming cyber threats. We'll try to understand the tech giving criminals this edge, look at some real-world examples because those really hit home, and then see how defenses and regulations are trying and sometimes, struggling to keep pace.
Right. The goal is for you to come away with a clear, informed perspective on this critical and, honestly, incredibly fast-moving landscape.
All right, let's dive in then. The core problem we see highlighted again and again in the sources is that AI is fueling this significant and really rapid spike in cybercrime. It's playing this intense dual role, isn't it? A shield for defense, yes, but maybe an even more powerful weapon for offense.
That really is the big shift. Cybercriminals are actively adopting AI tools. They're launching incredibly sophisticated attacks, automating stuff that used to take serious manual effort, and bypassing security measures that maybe just a few years ago were pretty solid.
And the scale, it's escalating dramatically.
Yeah.
One trend that just jumps out from the research is the global spike in ransomware. The integration of AI into what they call RAS, that's ransomware as a service, seems to be driving this.
Absolutely. It's leading to new record figures, both in how often attacks happen and how severe they are worldwide. If you look at the data trends, say, from 2017 through 2021, the graphs just show this clear, steep climb.
Yeah, more attacks, higher ransom demands, and this just ballooning total economic impact. It really feels like an acceleration powered by AI.
And the worry isn't just about financial gain, though that's huge. Sources also look ahead, to the potential for AI-powered cyber warfare.
State-backed attack.
Exactly. The possibility of governments using AI for nation-state attacks, cyber espionage, on a scale we've maybe never considered before. That's a very real future threat they're pointing to.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How exactly does AI give cybercriminals this kind of superpower? What does the tech let them do that they couldn't before, or at least not as easily?
Well, at its heart, AI makes attacks smarter, much more adaptable, and frighteningly efficient. It means criminals can achieve massive scale, massive impact, often with minimal human effort really guiding the process.
Let's take AI-driven phishing. We all think we know phishing emails, right?
Yeah.
The bad grammar, the obvious scams.
Oh, this is nothing like that.
Yeah.
Not at all. AI uses things like natural language processing, NLP, and machine learning models. Yes, like those powerful transformer models, sort of like GPT that you hear about all the time now. It uses them to create messages that are highly personalized and just incredibly convincing.
I read about how it can mimic specific writing styles, like not just sound professional in general, but literally replicate the tone, the vocabulary, even the formatting of a specific person, like a CEO.
That's it. Sources detail how AI can analyze someone's public stuff, LinkedIn, past emails if they get hold of them, to generate messages that look exactly like they came from that person inside the company.
Wow.
And it learns. It uses adaptive learning. It tweaks those phishing emails in real time based on what's actually working, what's getting clicks and responses. It improves its success rate automatically.
So it's constantly getting better.
Pretty much. By harvesting targeted data, doing behavioral analysis from social media, other online footprints, AI can craft these spear phishing attacks aimed at specific, often high-value individuals. It figures out who's most vulnerable or maybe who has access to critical systems, and it crafts messages specifically for them.
That level of targeting, that personalization, it sounds incredibly hard to defend against, even if you're trained.
It is. Definitely. Now, beyond phishing, AI is also transforming malware and the whole hacking process.
How so?
Well, AI can automate that initial reconnaissance phase, scanning networks, finding vulnerabilities, identifying weak entry points. It does it much faster, much more thoroughly than a human probably could.
And once the malware is actually inside the system, it can become much harder to detect, I assume.
Exactly. AI-powered malware can evolve. It adapts its behavior, constantly modifies its code. It essentially learns from the security defenses it encounters.
Learn from the defenses.
Yeah, it analyzes how it was detected or blocked, and then develops new ways to bypass traditional antivirus or intrusion detection systems. Sources talk about this enabling dynamic content alteration and polymorphic attacks, where the code changes so frequently it avoids signature-based detection.
So it's like the malware is constantly changing its disguise to sneak past security.
Precisely. It doesn't leave a consistent digital fingerprint for defenders to latch onto. AI also allows for the use of phantom domains.
Phantom domains.
Yeah, these are short-lived, seemingly legitimate websites. They're created specifically for maybe one limited phishing campaign or malware delivery, and then they vanish. Makes them incredibly difficult for security teams to track and shut down in time.
And all this complex capability is being bundled into that ransomware as a service model you mentioned.
Right, making these advanced tools accessible even to criminals who aren't, deep technical experts themselves. It lowers the barrier to entry for sophisticated attack.
We also saw mentions of how AI is enabling these, frankly, frighteningly realistic deepfakes and voice mimicry.
Yes, AI can generate incredibly realistic deepfake voices. This is being used for impersonation, often in social engineering schemes. Criminals manipulate trust to commit financial fraud. Imagine getting a voice call that sounds exactly like your boss or a trusted colleague, but it's completely fake.
That's chilling. Which kind of brings us to the scale and sophistication of these attacks. This isn't just casting a wide net anymore, is it? It's deeply targeted, constantly adapting, and incredibly challenging to stop with, say, static defenses.
The sophistication in phishing, like we were just saying, the style mimicry, understanding context, the adaptive learning, it makes those emails bypass standard filters and look convincing even to people who are pretty savvy.
And those deepfakes. You mentioned the sources provided a specific real-world example.
They did, a really stark one. Back in 2020, a company was actually tricked into transferring, I think it was $243,000, all based on a phone call, where criminals used AI-generated deepfake voice tech to impersonate the CEO requesting the transfer.
Wow, so that wasn't theoretical, that was real money lost.
A direct, significant financial loss caused purely by AI voice mimicry.
And AI also helps criminals optimize their targeting, right? Moving beyond just random attacks.
Yeah, it helps them identify individuals or organizations most likely to pay a high ransom or who hold the most valuable data. This is often called big game hunting.
Ah, yes, I saw that term.
Yeah.
Like the Ryuk ransomware group used.
Exactly. A strategy effectively used by Ryuk where AI helps identify and prioritize those lucrative targets based on behavioral analysis, public financial data, that kind of thing.
And the ability for AI-powered malware to mimic legitimate processes or, constantly change its form, that's a major factor in bypassing defenses.
Huge factor. It gets past signature-based detection, obviously, but it can even fool some more advanced behavior-based systems because it learns what they're looking for and tries to alter itself to avoid triggering alarms.
So the combination of automation and adaptability just means these large-scale attacks can be launched with minimal manual effort, potentially affecting vast networks or even critical infrastructure.
Absolutely. And that trends data on RAS attacks we mentioned earlier, showing the exploding economic impact. It really just underscores the sheer scale of this problem.
Okay, seeing these capabilities in action definitely helps ground the threat. Let's maybe look at some specific real-world examples highlighted in the sources.
Good idea.
There was that detailed case study about an AI-driven phishing attack that hit a large financial institution in India, wasn't there? Early 2024.
Yeah, that case is a perfect illustration of these techniques coming together. AI was used to mimic the CEO's writing style. It leveraged behavioral analysis from public info to target senior execs with highly convincing emails.
And it worked?
It led to compromised credentials, unauthorized access to financial databases, significant service disruptions for days, and obviously substantial reputational damage for the bank. It just shows how AI is making phishing bypass both traditional human awareness and technical defenses.
And that specific UK deepfake voice fraud case from 2020, the $243,000 loss. Another direct example from the sources of AI voice mimicry leading straight to financial crime.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it? These aren't just theoretical capabilities anymore, they're being actively used.
Thinking about large-scale impact. The WannaCry attack in 2017 often comes up. Maybe not primarily AI-driven itself back then, but it certainly showed the potential for rapid global spread.
And the devastating impact on critical infrastructure, right? Like the UK's National Health Service, parts of it were badly disrupted.
Fast forward to today, and that Synnovis NHS ransomware attack in June 2024. That's a very recent and very distressing example of the real-world consequences.
Absolutely. An attack on a pathology services provider, but it caused huge disruptions in London hospitals. Nearly 200 cancer treatments canceled, blood transfusions hit hard, leading to a national blood appeal.
It just highlights the vulnerability of healthcare and how hitting a third-party supplier can have such a direct, terrible human cost.
Definitely. We also saw examples of that targeted bias, like Ryuk, active around 2018 to 2020, known specifically for that big game hunting approach.
Targeting large organizations that could pay big ransoms.
Right. And then there was Revil, also known as Sorino Kibi, from around 2019. That really illustrates the Reyes model and the tactic of double extortion.
That's where they encrypt the data and steal it.
Exactly. They encrypt it, demand a ransom, and threaten to leak the stolen data publicly if the victim doesn't pay. It just adds immense pressure.
The sources also mentioned investigations into specific criminal groups, like Scattered Spider, linked to UK retail hacks.
Yeah, M&S, Co-op were mentioned. The UK's National Crime Agency is investigating links to Scattered Spider. Sources noted their methods often include quite sophisticated social engineering.
Like calling IT help desks.
Things like that, yeah. Manipulating staff into resetting passwords or granting access they shouldn't. They're described as sort of a loose community, often young, English-speaking individuals operating across platforms like Discord, Telegram.
So it shows the human element is still key in exploiting vulnerabilities, even if AI helps gather the info or hone the techniques.
Absolutely. It's often a blend.
Okay, so that's the offensive side, how AI is empowering cybercriminals. What about defense? How are cybersecurity professionals, regulators, fighting back against this AI-powered wave?
Well, the good news, I suppose, is that AI is just as crucial, maybe even more so on the defense side. Cybersecurity firms are heavily leveraging AI for advanced threat detection.
How does that work?
Using machine learning, deep learning to identify malware, spot anomalies in network traffic, detect suspicious behavior, stuff that traditional signature-based systems would just miss.
Okay, and it can automate things too.
Yeah. Automate incident response processes, speed up fraud detection, and significantly help out security operations centers, the SOCs. Those teams are constantly monitoring for threats, right? AI helps them sift through the huge volume of alerts and prioritize the real critical threats. Darktrace was mentioned in the sources as one example of a platform using AI defensively.
But the sources were pretty clear about the challenges too, weren't they?
Oh, definitely. They're clear-eyed about it. Traditional defenses often just aren't enough against these dynamic, AI-driven threats. And even AI-enhanced defense systems face challenges because, like we said, AI ransomware can learn and adapt specifically to bypass them.
So it really is becoming this AI versus AI arms race.
That's very much the feeling you get from the research, yeah. The adaptability of offensive AI is a massive hurdle. Plus, attackers are increasingly encrypting communications between their malware and command servers, making network monitoring much harder.
And defensive AI isn't perfect either.
No system is. Defensive AI can potentially be manipulated, it can suffer from biases baked into its training data, or it can generate frustrating false positives, flagging legitimate activity as bad or worse. Dangerous false negatives, missing real threats.
So despite the power of AI in defense, the sources strongly emphasize that human expertise, it remains absolutely essential.
Crucial. Couldn't be clearer. Humans are needed for the critical decision-making, for developing the overall strategy, for conducting advanced analysis when something really complex or novel happens, and just for providing oversight.
Human-AI collaboration seems to be the key then.
That's the consensus. AI should augment human capabilities, make analysts faster, more effective, but not replace human judgment entirely, especially not in tricky new attack scenarios. Training security staff to actually work with these AI tools effectively is becoming really vital.
Makes sense. What about regulation? Is that keeping pace with this incredibly fast-moving threat landscape?
Mostly no. The regulatory landscape is definitely struggling. It's fragmented globally, and it finds it incredibly challenging to keep up with the speed AI capabilities are advancing and, being weaponized.
We do see different approaches being attempted, though, right? Like the EU AI Act.
Yeah, that proposes a risk-based framework. It classifies AI used in critical infrastructure and cybersecurity as high risk.
Meaning stricter rules.
Exactly. Stricter rules around oversight, data quality, transparency, and you also see sector-specific regulations developing finance, healthcare, focusing on principles like fairness, accountability, explainability of AI decisions, and making sure they stick to privacy rules like GDPR.
But implementation sounds like the hard part.
It's a huge challenge. The tech moves so fast, AI systems are incredibly complex. The sources talk about the need for living frameworks regulations that can somehow adapt quickly as the tech and the threats evolve. There's also this noted legal void regarding clear accountability when AI is misused in cybercrime. Who's actually responsible? It's not always clear-cut.
So law enforcement and international collaboration seem more vital than ever, given how global these threats are.
Definitely. Authorities are actively investigating, like the NCA looking into Scattered Spider or India's certain agency involved in that phishing case. But the sources really emphasize this critical need for much greater collaboration between law enforcement, governments, private companies, cybersecurity experts globally.
Because the attackers operate across borders.
Exactly. So you need international cooperation to harmonize approaches, share threat intelligence effectively, and conduct coordinated investigations. Initiatives like India's I4C, trying to coordinate cybercrime fighting nationally, are steps in that direction.
Okay, and finally, for organizations and individuals listening, what are the practical defense strategies recommended in the sources? What can people actually do?
Well, layers are key. Multi-layered security is essential. Beyond that, the basics, the fundamental security hygiene remain critical. Timely software updates, patching vulnerabilities, you can't skip those.
But static defenses aren't enough, you said.
Right. So implementing advanced detection methods, behavioral analytics, machine learning is necessary now. And robust data backup strategies are absolutely crucial. Keep backups separate from the main network, test them so you can actually recover if you do get hit by ransomware.
And employee training seems even more important now with attacks like that super convincing AI phishing.
Absolutely critical. Enhancing employee training and awareness is vital. People need to understand how sophisticated these attacks can look now. Stricter authentication methods too, multi-factor authentication should be non-negotiable pretty much everywhere.
Anything else?
Organizations should seriously consider leveraging threat intelligence services, stay informed about the latest attack methods, and potentially look into cybersecurity insurance to help mitigate the financial fallout if the worst happens.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the picture seems pretty clear. AI is drastically changing the landscape of cybercrime. It's making attacks more sophisticated, more targeted, and significantly more impactful, from those incredibly convincing phishing campaigns to rapidly evolving ransomware.
Yeah, the battle between AI-powered offense and AI-enhanced defense is definitely intensifying. And AI is fundamentally both the problem driving this increase in sophisticated attacks and, well, a key necessary part of the solution on the defense side.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Considering how rapidly these AI-powered cyber threats are evolving, how they're adapting, and the real challenges regulators and defenders face in just keeping pace, should we start treating AI technology more like, I don't know, a dangerous weapon, something requiring really stringent control?
Or can cybersecurity defenses, even enhanced by AI and crucial human expertise, realistically hope to keep up in this accelerating arms race?
Yeah, maybe most importantly for everyone listening, what does all this mean for your own digital security in a world where the attackers are, quite literally, getting smarter every single day? Tell us what you'd love to hear in the next deep diving comments. We'll see you on the next one.